It's only entertainment.
Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, capital markets analyst and host of your cannabis business podcast, here with George Jage. He's a founder of Unpacked and Jage Media, and has an article about the 2022 predictions, crystal ball predictions of the year. And so I kind of wanted to dive into this and see what you thought was going to happen in the industry relative to what I think might happen in the industry. So what I've done here and what I've been doing over the last several years is I go to a lot of different sites here and I grab what they think is going to happen and I aggregate that. Right. So over the last few years, whether it was 2020 or last year or this year, basically 17% of the people, that's 18 different predictions, equating to 17%, that believe that federal decriminalization and or legalization is going to happen within the industry somewhere, all the way down to 2% feel that banking is going to be a huge thing this year. It's less than 2%. And so this is the aggregated industries predictions of the year, that small business will be bigger than MSOs, that CBD or hemp D8 is going to be a thing, a lot of miscellaneous things. And as you can see, it was very concentrated in 2020 and has gotten wider. And I had to add a miscellaneous category, which to me says that people have no idea where the industry is going to go now. Whereas back then it was pretty concentrated. It was like, yes, we're going to make money. Yes, there's legalization and edibles and vape and all these like minor categories. And now it's like, holy shit, we're going to become a CBG industry. And there's a lot of different avenues we can go, and we have no idea where it's going to go. So whether it's new product innovations or cannabinoids and terpenes and flavonoids, or consolidation or branding or pricing, investing, consumption lounges, all of these things are basically stacked into this crystal ball prediction for the industry. Kind of just looking year over year, it's definitely developing and getting more opinionated, which is why we got George on here to talk about his opinions and where he thinks the industry might go. So, yeah, with that, man, tell us all the insights and where you think the industry is going to go.
Well, first of all, that was a great laundry list of SEO optimized terms that you rattled off there. That's pretty nice and tight. So listen, I mean, this is one of the most exciting, dynamic industries that I think any of us will ever experience in our lifetime. I mean, you have a $50 billion market that was being, very vibrant and supported, that was illegal, completely illegal. So anybody that was involved in the trade was risking life and limb, so to speak, with federal asset forfeiture or asset forfeiture jail time, right? I mean, so we have a long legacy of pioneers in this space that predate our legal industry, and let's not forget them. Let's make sure that as an industry, we help the legacy market come forward, and that we support them in the same way that they support us when it wasn't legal. Because I know that I wouldn't have been able to get the weed and sell it to my friends in high school if it wasn't for that market. So moving forward, full circle and looking at 2022, it is a guess. It is a little bit of, hyperbole to talk about predictions in the market. But let's talk about safe banking for a second. I mean, like, if there is a singular piece of legislation that needs to pass on a federal level, immediately it is that. I don't know why we haven't gotten there. It's pretty common sense legislation. There's overwhelming support to legalize marijuana by the American public. That doesn't mean that everybody wants to smoke it. It just means that they think it shouldn't be illegal. And so, getting back to that safe banking, that is huge. We need to be able to provide access to capital to the independent operators. This is a country that has been built on entrepreneurialism of mom and pop and neighborhood stores being able to create a life and a supported living for their families and support the communities that are around them. That we have to we don't want the cannabis industry that we have, the Walmart of weed, that we just have these big box stores of Total Wine all over the country selling everything. Yes, there's going to be some of those, but let's remember where the industry really lives. It's go into that local Ace Hardware where they know you and they can help you walk you around the store and show you where the nuts and bolts are, not going into Home Depot and being lost for 3 days and finding yourself, a couple days later still not finding what you need. So
but can we
going
get
back
there
to
though
that,
with the Safe Banking Act before the MORE Act? Because it seems like the Democrats want the marijuana opportunity reinvestment and expunge to happen
Yep.
before banking, which I think is it feels good to say that. The reality, I mean, it seems like political posturing more than anything else, because I don't think they care about anybody other than themselves. That's my opinion. But it does seem like they would like to create an even playing field before they add more revenue opportunities. Like, let's expunge all of these records, let's get all this first, and then offer banking.
yes. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, like from a harm reduction standpoint, the MORE Act or any type of form of expungement, which is happening on the state levels, there's groups like Last Prisoner Project that are working on, criminal justice reform and helping getting people's records expunged or clemency and getting them out of jail for nonviolent marijuana, crime. Well, I don't even want to call them crimes. Like I said, I think these people are being held hostage for using plant medicine, and that in itself is illegal, not the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I don't want to dismiss the importance of the MORE Act, but I think that being able to kind of normalize banking, where a cannabis business can get an SBA loan, they can get a loan that's not 15 points with huge default penalties that are going to destroy their business. Personal guarantees that put the business, the entrepreneur at extreme financial risk if regulations change, and then all of a sudden they can't meet their objectives and they're losing their business or losing their license. Like, if we don't support the small independent businessman in our industry, we're making a huge mistake.
Mm-hmm.
So I think both of those things need to be done in tandem. I mean, there's certainly an argument that by coupling them, it's making it a little bit more difficult to pass. I think, just generally speaking, not pro-Democrat or pro-Republican, but just anti-inefficiency, that, they need to get their shit together. Mm-hmm. And we need to pass these because they are simple, they're easy to understand. Yes, there's complexities when you're passing legislation. But listen, why just make cannabis banking a thing, right? Allow the banks to operate legally with the cannabis companies. And in that, if we normalize the banking, that should also, move the needle on the 280E, which again is incredibly punitive tax code for the licensed operators in our space. I mean, it was about 3 or 4 years ago, a friend of mine said that eliminating the 280E would return about $25 billion in capital back into the cannabis industry. What if we could use that to, improve product safety, education, even pay more taxes to the state governments that are, I think it's exceeded $1 billion in 2021 collectively in the United States. I mean, let's get this stuff put to bed. So why doesn't it? We've been talking about the same thing for 5 years. Mm. Why hasn't it happened? There's some arguments to say that, Mitch McConnell's the only one who can legalize marijuana. And he's waiting until his supporters, financial supporters from alcohol and tobacco, tell them do it so that they're ready. Mm-hmm. Not to suggest that there would be such nefarious intentions by somebody like Mitch McConnell. But unfortunately, that's the way the game's played. And until we get term limits in place and repeal Citizens United, that we're going to have to deal with a government that's for sale. So let's, circling back to those things in 2022. Yeah, I do hope that we see safe banking. I certainly hope we see the MORE Act. I hope we continue to see, criminal justice reform in and around the space, and increasing the social equity opportunities for the communities most harmed by cannabis. But beyond that, and kind of talking about the market landscape, what's really interesting in cannabis is that the relationship with the consumer has really lived and breathed with the retailer. There's certainly cases for this in other markets. If you look at the natural food industry, people have a relationship with Whole Foods as a store. Like, I want to go buy from Whole Foods because I feel that I'm getting better quality product and that it's healthier for me, regardless of the increased expense that I might be paying, that I want to shop there because of the experience that retailer is creating. But, at the same point, people are still going to start moving. And if you look at the alcohol industry, you don't order Jack and Pepsi. you order Jack and Coke. So, people have that relationship, and the consumers have a relationship with a brand, right? And so when we see this at, whether you're, back in the old days, you were either a Bud man or you're a Miller man, right? People are going to build those relationships with brands, and we're starting to see that. There's companies starting to build out, DTC models. Ginger Commerce, who participated in our last MJ Unpacked, is building out a pretty sharp mousetrap out in California for brands to really own the relationship direct with the consumer, as opposed to the retail store. I mean, I live in an area where there are two dispensaries that are relatively close. One's much closer. I go there, and if I need some fast-acting gummies, I'm going to take whatever fast-acting gummies they have. They don't have a section of fast-acting gummies where I can really shop and choose my brand yet. But we'll get there. And I think that as brands continue to penetrate new state markets and have more products on shelves, we'll be in great shape.
The brands I think of, so I used to say brands don't matter. It's all about the highest THC at the lowest price point. And just finally now we're starting to see brands that people are going back to consistently. Mexico is paying for California cannabis ounces for $500 an ounce. So they're wanting these brands, and they're going to pay a premium for it. I'm wondering, with the increase in e-commerce and direct sales that we're seeing in California, potentially affecting brands like Cookies that have made global headlines and have come with all of the right things, which isn't the massive amounts of production or the highest THC, but consistency, reliability, phenotypes, and cultivars people actually want. So is it a matter of understanding the industry opposite of what Tilray's doing?
Well, yes, it's that Cookies has done all those things right, but they also had a legacy story. They had the storytelling behind the brand and kind of that understanding that, that there's authenticity to that brand, right? Berner is obviously a celebrity who's kind of come in space, but I mean, he's kind of, and he's starting to see, how do you create that storytelling? This is where I see such an opportunity for some of the legacy operators that have not been able to get licensed and move into the legal markets yet, for a variety of reasons. One, they don't have any tax records to show, probably any of their income or any of their cash assets. But that's the storytelling, like those brands that have been around for a long time. You see somebody like Vlad out in New York with Happy Monkey, that has been a legacy operator for several decades. He has moved and positioned himself, and New York is addressing those issues in and around how do you help those legacy people come forward. So I think each state market is trying to figure this out, but we got to get to a point where it's not complicated, it's not politicized, it's set up so that there is a fair and equal path for people to come into the industry and be successful based on their ability to compete in the marketplace. So I think that this is the year that we're really going to see the year of the brand. I mean, you saw Wana Brands, big announcement at the end of last year, $300 million, payment by Canopy to invest in them with the right to buy them in the future with another 15%, of the then stock price or valuation of business that would come on as an additional payment to Wana. You see stuff like, Old Pal, who, Rusty Wilkerson out in, California. There's a brand that owns exactly 0 cannabis licenses. They didn't build, the idea of going and acquiring a license in a new state. It's very expensive. It might be a couple $100,000, might be $1 million, and then you got to build out all the infrastructure, deal with all of the post-legalization lawsuits, build that business up and establish market share. And while everything's trying to converge, where retail's trying to open and cultivation's trying to produce and brands are trying to manufacture, testing's happening, and not all of those components of the ecosystem come online at the same time and create some inefficiencies. We've gotten better at it. I think Nevada was like 11 months from legalization to opening their market. But again, market opens up and then like in a week, there's no product left. So, we need to create those operational efficiencies pretty quick. Certainly interstate commerce can cure that. If you have an existing market, Idaho, which very well may decide to be the last state in the United States to legalize cannabis. If they set up an interstate commerce, agreement with Washington that allowed those producer processors and that operational efficiency to expand in that state, boom, they'd have a legal market tomorrow. So I think this is the year of the brand. I really do, and I think I would argue that there is no national brand. Yes, Cookies, Wana, other brands, Old Pal, Wild. There's a lot of brands that are really building some market share. Can's another good example as a seltzer and kind of partnership with their GTI. Live Well as a retailer, merging with PharmaCann, and expanding their footprint into new state markets. They've been wildly successful and have been a leader in the space in Colorado for a long time. So, getting these companies to kind of prepare for the nationalization of the market is critical, and that is going to be a function of brands being able to expand into new states in a more cost-efficient way than having to spend, $5 to $10 million of capital to stand up a new license in that new market when they can partner with somebody who has a license in that market.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any other 2022 crystal ball predictions that you think are going to happen, or do you have any comments on what the industry thinks is going to happen, either for or against? Do you think that some of these won't happen? I don't want to take away from your other predictions, but if you see something on here, you're like, that's never going to happen, I'd like to get your opinion on that too.
Well, listen, part of my job and my very kind of to my nature, I'm an optimist, right? Like I want us to see things going forward. Like hey, federal legalization in the next 2 years. That's maybe people would argue that it's not plausible. Certainly people who are far smarter than me that are probably more tuned into the political conversation. But I think that we're just going to see this continued expansion into new state markets. You're seeing huge acquisitions. You're starting to see huge financing deals. Banks just got a $19 million in their Series B round, talking about, when they got into the space, there was, 10, 20,000 people working in the industry, and now there's hundreds of thousands and expected to double in the next 3 to 5 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we're going to continue to build that critical mass as an industry of employees who are paying taxes into the state governments and the federal government as a result of their employment in a licensed marijuana business, and that the licensed marijuana businesses are going to continue to pay taxes, a exorbitant amount, and we have to get to that critical mass where it's both the large companies that have the ability to fund lobbying efforts in Washington, MSOs, and the small independent players have a unified voice of what we need as an industry, and then pray to God that our government can get out of their own way and get it done.
Right. Well, I think that about wraps that one up. That's yeah. I think that pretty much sums it up. Exactly. Yeah, hopefully they can figure it out. I would agree with you that Schumer is going to wait for his his lobbyists to give the green light. Unfortunately, that's just the way that it is.
And I think actually Mitch McConnell does have a little bit more power. I mean, anything that gets passed in the House is going to the Senate, unless the Dems take control of the Senate. I don't want to speculate on mid-year term elections, but I will tell everybody listening to your podcast, pay attention. Midterms are as important, if not more important, than what happens in the presidential election years. We need to make sure that we have the right people representing us in Washington. Democracy has been challenged. Step it up if you want to have one.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a red tidal wave. Republicans are going to take the House and the Senate. I think it's going to be the biggest lame duck administration in history for the next 2 years. And then as soon as the next administration is elected, I think within their first year, they're going to legalize. So my guess is 3 years from now.
Yeah, that's a scary prediction, my friend, because if we see that landslide towards Republicans, we have a lame duck, we're going to have gridlock. Yep. There's serious issues that we need to address, that we need our elected officials to address, from cannabis legislation to climate change. These are real things, by the way, backed by science, which actually studies things and proves them to be conceptually correct at the moment in time. So we need to address them, right? And we need some powerful leadership in our country. And if we see that happen, who is the president-elect? Is it, does that create the pathway for a Republican president to come in And are we going to see that be Donald Trump again? And, I know that he's a polarizing figure, but I think we have some serious things that we need to pay attention to as a society.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We went from the most popular president in history to the most unpopular president in history in 11 months. And then now we're talking about bringing Hillary Clinton back. And I just think either way, we're inviting Trump back into the presidency. If either of those individuals want to run again, they're just seems to be proven losers. But that's my opinion. I don't know. Let me know in the comments how you think about it, because let's start a little argument.
Yeah, there you go.
Tell me about what you got going on this year, George. You're going to be in New York coming up. You're going to be in Vegas in September. What's going on with MJ Unpacked? Where can people find you at?
Yeah, thank you. Super excited about this. Obviously we launched our event last October in Las Vegas as really a new way to think about how people can, get a great return on investment and objectives and experience at events. Everybody who comes into our event is qualified to be a CPG brand or retail executive at the title of manager or higher, so that we have a room full of decision makers. You're not going to an event that's got tens of thousands of people. Half of them are trying to sell you something. The other half are trying to find a job in the industry. And maybe a few of them are relevant to you. But and the other side of that is just, again, focusing on the CPG side of the industry, on the brands, on the retailers, creating paths to success. And our event is also, we do allow in accredited investors who are actively investing in the cannabis space. We're looking for investors who have the intent and potential to actually write a check and support the capital needs of the market. And so that's such an important part of the ecosystem right now. And, maybe post-safe banking won't be. But we will be doing an event in New York, May 4th, 5th, and 6th. We'll be in Las Vegas, September 28th to 30th. I am so excited because, after our first event, the feedback has been overwhelming. How the event was on point, how every conversation people had was juicy, and the level of business transactions that were able to get done there as a function of keeping it focused, qualified, and curated.
You mentioned in a previous podcast when we were talking about the acquisition of MJ BizCon that 80% of leads are not equated to follow-up, which I find fascinating. And yet, when I was at MJ Unpacked, I was hearing this gong go off all day long, signifying that there's deals going on. So you need a branded gong, apparently. I think you borrowed that one.
No, that was that. So my staff, I get harassed by my team very often because I come up with these really just off the wall ideas, and I'm like, I need to get a gong. I want a gong in the middle of our show floor, and I want people to bang the gong every time they get a deal done. Yeah. And whatever. And so we did this, and people loved it. But not only that, I found a gong from China that's actually called the Flower of Life gong that uses sacred geometry with 7 concentric circles. That's a natural energy healing gong. So it's like Flower of Life gong at a cannabis show. Perfect, right? Yeah. So that is going to be a perennial experience at our events. And one of the things that we pride ourselves on is really, not resting on our laurels ever, not ever taking a single customer, attendee, or client for granted, but making sure that we're listening to what the market needs, delivering on it, and creating an experience that they wouldn't have anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, smaller show, but it's more targeted. So if you want the crazy experience of MJ BizCon where you're not going to follow up on leads and you're going to see dirt,
if you need light bulbs or label makers, right? I mean, they have over 100
15 forms of dirt. You got the show for that. But if you want something else that's smaller, more intimate, and you're going to have the right amount of people that you actually want to talk to, check out MJ Unpacked. Where you guys at?
Did you have a chance to play some foosball? We had that 25-foot foosball table. I was getting pretty rowdy for a while there, like when the bar was open.
No, I didn't. I unfortunately, like the video, like old school video games on the walls, and then the long foosball table. I didn't, because I was interviewing. You guys kept me busy. I was interviewing a lot of awesome people. Wanda Brands. Yeah, Wanda Brands was there talking about their $300 million. I mean, I had a awesome content. No time for playing though. It was all work, which was great. We're just got to come back to the next one and make sure that we have more fun at that one. So yeah, check out MJ Unpacked. What's your website? Where are you at?
I apologize. Lucky, my dog sees the mailman. It's www.mjunpack.com.
Yeah, it's not your dog. It's going to be mine next. So great time to wrap this one up.
Yeah.
So I want to thank George Jage. He is the founder of Jage Media, as well as co-founder. Yeah, don't want to leave out those other.
Kim Jage.
Okay, yeah. Well, Kim's important too. Her and her marketing skills. So
she's the yin to my yang. So we've made a great team together. We really love serving the industry, and we can't wait to show people what's next in New York.
I haven't met her yet. You're gonna have to let her out one of these days. And see your better half. So with that, we're gonna have to roll up this talking hedge. I want to thank George Jage. Find him at MJ Unpacked or what is your other MJ
Brand Insights. MJ Brand Insights. So we've got great content. I've got a phenomenal editor, Felicia Rogers. Great team of freelance journalists that contribute to our publication. But yeah, please come visit. Sign up for our free newsletter. We'd love to share some great stories with you.
Yep. We'll put the MJ Brand Insights link and George's LinkedIn link in there as well, so you guys can contact him if you want. But with that, we're gonna have to roll this one up. So I want to thank George Jage, co-founder of MJ Unpacked. I appreciate you being on the Talking Hedge again.
All right. Thank you, brother.
With that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out.
Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and check out these other videos that we've got.